the needle is moving in the other direction. I also want to tell you that we've been the first to be very honest and truthful with you when things weren't going well. We've never sugarcoated anything. So we're not just saying this. We're going to substantiate what we're talking about. Her campaign is not doing well. America has figured her out. And Todd, what do you think? What do you think's changed her campaign?
Well, this is a woman that is not a likable person. She's never been a likable person. She's never won a primary. She was not somebody who was liked in the Democrat, side of the aisle. I mean, that's why she, didn't win last time around. It was kind of de facto. She's been put in, instead of voted in. And I think the Democrat voters don't like that, Mario. I think that they chose their candidate, and then all of a sudden somebody was selected. And a lot of people are feeling like, hey, wait a minute here. What just happened? And she's got bad policy. She's not a likable person. She tends to laugh in a very strange way. She's socially awkward. And I think the campaign is in panic mode right now. We're going to kind of dissect that and show you why we believe that's the case.
Yeah, well, not only are we going to show you how that works, I think it's also important for people to understand that there is a significant thing that just happened. It's not like I was looking for it. It was not like I was expecting it. I've been in such prayer, praying over our nation. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. We still need repentance. We still need a miracle in the American church. We need pastors to wake up. They're still not in their pulpits saying what they should be saying. Not yet. But the needle has definitely moved. And I believe prayer is being answered. And so I think we should go to the first video, because this gives you a concise picture of what has just happened to the Harris campaign. So let's roll that video right now.
How is her campaign going?
It's an interesting question that you're asking, because the national media in the United States loves to throw out these shiny nickels and say, look at this national poll. She's up by 4 points. Well, that's great, except we don't vote nationally. We vote by state. And right now, when you look at the path to 270 electoral votes, which is what you need to win, I did this on my podcast the other day. Donald Trump's got several paths to victory, several ways to get 270 votes. She doesn't. In fact, if she doesn't win the entirety of what we call the blue wall, that's Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, she loses. Donald Trump just needs to pick off one state. When you look at the state polls that just came up, Trump is up 4 or 5 points in Arizona. He's up 4 or 5 points in Georgia. He's up a couple points in North Carolina. He's doing what he needs to do. It's Kamala Harris that's on the defense when it comes to a path to 270 electoral votes. But the national media doesn't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the erosion in some of these other key demographics. For example, the Hispanic vote, she's up like 20 points. That's great on its face, except for traditionally, that's about a 30-point gap between the Republican and the Democrat. Donald Trump has closed it. So the national media is trying to create the perception through national polls and other things that don't matter that she's actually doing really well and trending in the right direction. But when you scratch beneath the surface and look at what actually will make a deciding factor as to who will be the next president of the United States, who will get those 270 electoral votes.
Okay, she's not doing as well as Hillary Clinton did. She's not doing as well as Biden did in the last one. And I think it's very important to look at it. I think that one of the things that has pushed people away from her has been the media itself. I believe the media has backfired. Explain to the people what the media has done with Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things here. Number one, there's the rise in alternative media. You got sites like Truth Social and X, which in the previous elections didn't have the free speech that was available. So now folks are having the real conversation. They're playing the Kamala Harris videos talking about fracking. They're playing, the things that she's saying. She doesn't want to take away guns, all these different things. Here's the video. You want to watch it? So what Trump has done, very, very amazing, brilliant, is he's actually running campaign ads playing from her own words. And here's another thing. She does not have the advantage that Hillary Clinton had, where even though Bill Clinton was a cheater, for the most part, America was in a better position during the Clinton administration than now. So there was a likability factor, and many people were like, well, maybe if we get Hillary in there, we'll have Bill in there, and we'll have some good policy. Again, I'm not saying I like Bill Clinton, but it was a different era, as you understand. So the deal is this woman doesn't have Bill Clinton. She doesn't have, if it was Michelle Obama, she would have Barack Obama. Barack Obama in the Democrat circles was a pretty liked president, even though, again, I don't agree with his policies, but America was in a better position than during the Biden administration. So the deal is this woman doesn't have any of that. She's not a liked woman. She's never been. And I think they overplayed their hand, Mario. I think that they did it from the beginning. Yeah. And, look at how this whole thing developed. Right when they transitioned from Biden to Harris, all of a sudden within a week, you had all the mainstream corporate media out there, how beloved she is. Everybody's so excited. There's this big groundswell of support. I don't think that was ever there. I think that was all smoke and mirrors. And what's happening is because of the alternative media, because folks are now researchers and the world has changed, they're not being able to control the narrative like they once did. And that's the difference right now. People have to understand that. So even though they're all out there saying this poll is, she's doing so great and everybody's behind her, folks are talking to each other. They're looking on these other sites and they're saying, wait a minute, something is not, it smells wrong here. Something's not right.
And what we're trying to tell you as the audience is that's what America has figured out. We're echoing the attitude of Americans right now. They're fed up with this. And here's the fact, this is what we've got to see. Kamala Harris has hit Trump with her best shot. The campaign has hit him with her best shot. Everything they're going to throw at him, they've thrown at him. And here's the deal. It didn't move the needle. They rigged the debate. It was 3-1. They said Trump lost and it mattered and it moved the needle. No, it didn't. It did not affect the poll numbers, not in the final analysis. There was no bounce. Then she went on Oprah and did even worse. See, she literally did not answer a single question. This was her moment. And think about it. All she had to do, she was in a situation, they actually had a teleprompter for her. She had everything going for her. She knew the questions in advance. For example, one of the big questions was having to do with the economy. What are you going to do about inflation? She had one job. She had one thing to do, is answer that question. But she didn't even present a single policy. And you can look on it. We're going to play a little bit of that. But there was not any sense of confidence from Oprah. She looked like she was in pain. She looked like, I want to get out of here. So then it moved people to understand that something about this woman, she cannot be president. So the poll numbers are starting to reflect it. It's starting to change. Something is going on. And I really believe that we have to be careful how we say this. America's a wicked country. She needs to repent. We have a lot of disunity. We have a long way to go. We need a miracle of repentance, revival, and then reformation. We got a lot of work to do. But all we're saying is that you have figured it out. Her facade is worn off. Her lies are no longer working. The euphoria, everybody's figured out. She did not get to the place where she was the Democratic nominee for president legally. She didn't do it according to any kind of vote. She was not elected. Then the media just absolutely decided we're going to do this massive euphoric campaign. And now that is failing. And I feel it so strongly. But you know what? It's not even just that. There is something going on in Trump right now that people are starting to realize he is not the monster that they thought he was. Don't you kind of see that right now, Todd?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mentioned this in a previous broadcast, but, I travel a lot. I talk to Uber drivers. I talk to taxi drivers. I talk to people on the planes. It's a diverse group. I mean, folks that you in the past would not have thought would be Trump supporters. Sometimes, Mario, I'll wear a shirt and it'll allude to the fact of, how I vote. It's a Second Amendment shirt, or, be free or whatever. And folks are like, I like that shirt. People are commenting. People are talking. There's something in the atmosphere where people are starting to figure this out. And they don't like the man, the man, whoever it is that's, pushing down the citizenry of America and stopping us from having freedoms and rights and the ability to have the American dream and buy a home when you're coming out of college. People are seeing a difference, and they're saying, wait a minute, here's a man that is fighting for our rights. He's saying, I don't want to tax tips. He's talking about overtime. The policies that this man's coming up with are brilliant. And they affect the working class. They affect the blue collar folks out there that are struggling right now, that are working 2-3 jobs. My wife works, I work 2 jobs. Most of us are having to do this just to survive today. And people are feeling this. And, I heard somebody say, it might be in one of the clips that we're playing tonight, but they said, Democrats respond to words and the rest of the folks respond to actions. And that's the truth, Mario. That's the truth, is that folks are looking at the actions. It's like the Bible says, you know them by their fruit. And the fruit of the Kamala Biden era is disastrous. It's disastrous on the world stage. It's disastrous domestically. It's disastrous financially. And even though they're propping up the economy, I'm going to tell you, people know that that's also an illusion. And the numbers don't even match. You know what I'm saying? So I think folks are really figuring this out. And this is all contributing to what, if CNN, who is the bottom of the bottom in the polling, totally wrong, is saying it's like within a 1-point margin, that's pretty remarkable, Mario.
You know what I love about Trump? He's such a genius at taking the 24-hour news cycle. Okay, so he said they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. And suddenly we have all these glorious reels on the internet right now. And the Democrats have got to be saying, we can't even talk about Trump anymore. Everybody is talking about dogs and cats, showing these wonderful images of the dogs hearing on the news that they're going to be eaten and their reaction. And it's dominated everything. And it is an amazing tactic. It really is. And how appropriate, though, is that tactic when this has been a silly campaign from the beginning. It's been a silly campaign from the beginning for her. It began with her lying about Joe Biden's mental condition. I really feel like America's finally figured that out. This woman lied to you about the condition of the president of the United States in a time of potential war, in a time of international chaos, when our foreign policy and our domestic policy is so urgent. This woman straight up looked at you and said, Joe Biden's mind is just fine. He is sound, when she knew that was a lie. And everybody is reflecting now. You see, there is a euphoria and there's an adrenaline. When everyone says, this is the person we got to vote for, we're going to have a woman of color in the White House, the euphoria. But all of a sudden, that started to wear down and they go, well, she did lie. Yeah, she did. And then other people began to say after that, we never did vote her in. I remember what Bill Maher said. She has won primaries. You can count on one hand the number of primaries she has won if there's no fingers on that hand. And he's not a Republican. He's not right wing, but he rightly came to the conclusion this woman isn't there with any legitimacy or validity. But what it was is they had to hold on to power. And I really feel that the Democratic machine was so arrogant, we can put anybody in the presidency we want. We are the machine. but the hand of God seems to be stretching out right now to prevent something. I think we're on the cusp of something really important. I'm not saying we need to vote, right? We need to vote, folks. We definitely need to vote. But I also feel that one of the other things they've done to insult our intelligence is by telling us that the only reason you have to vote for Kamala Harris is that she's not Trump and that he's a threat to democracy. Comment on that, Todd.
Yeah, well, threat in which way? Better jobs, bringing back manufacturing, tariffing China, and bringing energy independence. I mean, what is the threat to democracy exactly? Right now, with the Harris administration, we're going to probably see a world war. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, what they're saying, higher taxes, and we're probably going to go to war. So how does that appeal to anybody? Mario, I remember, I think it was during the Clinton era when James Carville came out and he had a sticker. He said, "It's the economy, stupid." You remember that? It's the economy, stupid. Well, even though they're saying the economy is so strong, I'm telling you, and I know everybody watching this understands what I'm saying. No one feels like the economy is strong right now, whether it's prices, whether it's consumer confidence, whether it's the retail sector. No one is feeling, if you're a small business owner, no one is feeling like, oh, this economy is so robust. It's so amazing. Most people, if you speak to folks on the street, they will say it's being propped up. There's tremendous printing. The policies have not helped in the economy at all. And so we've seen the difference of a Trump economy and his policies versus the policies of Biden and Harris. And so you have two different administrations back to back where folks are looking at the quality of their life and they're saying, okay, here was my life during the Trump era. Here's my life now. That's literally what we're voting on, Mario, if you think about it. I mean, and all of us freshly remember, because it was only 4 years ago, what the world was like during the Trump era. We were seeing, virtual peace in the world. I mean, the wars were being ended, and even the David Accords in the Middle East, and you had countries like Saudi Arabia that were looking to recognize Israel and sign in these agreements. And I mean, we were seeing Iran, literally backed up against the wall. You had North Korea. Look what happened with North Korea. I mean, folks remember this. And so, just look at the contrast between what we're dealing with now. I don't think there's many Americans that are going to say, even on the left. And here's where I'll end this argument, is that when I speak to people that I know, like in my family, that are Democrats, or people in the job world that I know that are Democrats, they will sidebar with me, Mario, and they'll say, you know what? I don't really like Kamala Harris, and honestly, I don't know if she's going to win. I don't think she's going to win. No one that I'm talking to is like, oh, I'm so excited about Harris. I have not heard that from anybody. And these, some of these people are very lifelong, stark Democrats. They're not excited about it, Mario.
What's amazing is that, you talk about a reliable source, and I'm going to leave it in this framework. I have a highly reliable source. And something happened that leaked, and I think we're going to see it in the next few days. One of the mics was left on in between the recording with Oprah. And she was heard to say, and I'm going to get a lot of emails on this, she was heard to say, God help us if she wins. And I tend to believe it because I looked at the look on her face that she was cringing during that entire interview. And I know I'm rehashing something old, but America saw that. And it was like they were waiting. She did not have the benefit of the debate situation. Remember, because the expectation for her in the debate was she was going to do horrible. And a lot of the belief that she won that debate was based on people's mental comparison of how she performed compared to how they expected her to perform. So it wasn't hard for her to look better. But when she went on Oprah, the expectation rose dramatically. Now everyone is waiting. They're going to ask her direct questions. And I think Oprah was genuinely shocked. Like, all you had to do was answer the question. What are you going to do about inflation? What are you going to do about the economy? What are you going to do about foreign policy? That's all she had to do. And she couldn't do it. She couldn't answer it. Now they've made another blunder, the Al Smith dinner, the press dinner. She's not going to that. What do you think that's going to do, Todd?
They're afraid because she's not able to do the monologue there. Let's be honest. She's not going to come off funny. She's not going to be somebody that people want to go, again, I don't advocate this as a Christian, but I'm just saying, like, go have a beer with. Remember how they used to talk about, I'd like to have a beer with Trump, or would you like to have a beer with Obama? No one wants to have a beer with Kamala. Let's just be honest. Okay. I don't think she's not a likable person. And let me give you a couple more factors here too. Here's a woman that is on camera, on video, saying that she's an Indian American, which again, race, I'm not bringing up race as a factor, but you got to understand, how does the African American community respond to that when a woman is seen in a video saying, hey, I'm Indian American, and President Trump brought this up, and then next minute she's claiming to be African American? Well, which one is it? And you got to think about this. Here's another factor. How's it going to factor in with male voters? They always talk about female voters, but male voters, what do male voters think of Kamala Harris? What do blue dog Democrats think of Kamala Harris? She's not a likable person. Again, so these are all factors here, Mario, and that's why they've been kind of keeping her hidden. And the fact that now they're putting her out there on interviews like Oprah, I think that's a sign of the panic that's going on.
Let's take the president of the Teamsters Union and talk about him for a second. Why isn't the union endorsing her? Well, because the information access that leaders of the Teamsters Union have is not the same as you and I. In other words, the magic that the media does on the masses, they can't do on this guy. This guy is in there. He's got the backroom information. Now, he appeared with Trump. We get that. That was amazing. But that isn't the real key here. They are not endorsing her. As a union, they are not endorsing her. And that was the next, to me, that was the next kink in the armor. Now, this Al Smith dinner that's going to be held in New York, sponsored by the Catholic Church, it's a tradition. I think there are two reasons she's not going to be there. One is she can't do anything unscripted, and Oprah found that out. But the other thing that they found out is that it's going to connect her to the persecution of the Catholic Church that she did as the Secretary of State in California. She was horrendous in her behavior toward the Catholic Church. This is well documented. This is just one more thing. Her past keeps coming back. She wanted to get rid of private insurance. Literally wanted to get rid of private insurance. Wanted to wipe out private insurance companies. She's claiming now that she's going to change. But here's what America thinks. As soon as she gets into power, she's going to revert back to her Marxist roots and just absolutely decimate the nation. They know that. So the point of tonight's show is this. This is what you have figured out. This is the answer to prayers that you have prayed. This is a moment, and let's give an athletic parallel to it. You're in a game, you're down at the halftime. We're in the halftime of this campaign. We're in the locker room. The score says we are losing. But then all of a sudden we realize in the last few minutes before the half, we saw something about the other team we didn't see before. And the coach is looking at us and saying, did you figure this out? Do you have this understand? We made the mistakes. It's not that they're better than us. It's that we haven't been doing the right thing. Now, I just did an interview. You'll see it on the internet. It's going to make a lot of noise. The individual who interviewed me, I'm not going to give you his name because I got to get his permission. But when he interviewed me a few months ago, he said, Mario, I just don't want to talk about politics at all. Please don't mention Trump. Don't mention Harris. And he had a really good heart. He's a man of God. See, let's just say it straight up. He's a man of God. And he had valid reasons for wanting to do it that way in the interview. So somewhere between a few months ago and now, he totally flipped. And he came out in the interview we just did and said, go for it. Tell it all. Reference what I wrote in Daughter of Lies, 1 Samuel 8. Talk about 5 things that God said would happen if Kamala Harris won the presidency. What changed this man? There's something going on in the spirit. But we got to understand what it is. We are behind. We're at war. She can still win. But apparently, she has hit us with her best shot, and that's all they've got. We cannot, at this moment, expect her poll numbers to improve in any way. She's done everything they can do. They've exhausted every trick, smoke and mirror, whatever they had, they've used it. It's all gone. And now you're going to see Trump is on the offensive. Kamala Harris is on the defensive. And she's doing things to survive while he's doing things to tell America precisely what it is that he's going to do. Now, I want to get your comment on this. Violence against Trump. Let's shift and talk about that for a moment. Twice there have been assassination attempts on him. And I think that that's the other thing that has turned people off to Harris, has been the media's insane reaction to those things. Now, so here's the deal. The reason to vote for for Kamala Harris was that Donald Trump is orange man evil. He's really evil. Right? And don't you think that has insulted the intelligence of the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I think folks are looking. I mean, I've heard guys like Bill Maher and others on the Democrat side that are, distancing themselves from this radicalized version of the Democrat Party and the fact that they're inciting violence. And I mean, this goes back for a while, Mario. I mean, remember when the cities were burning and you had I think it was a CNN anchor that was out there, mostly peaceful protests, the things burning behind. I mean, the buildings are burning. And then you had, January 6th, which I think we need to mention too. Those folks, yes, many of them are still being held and without due process, and very, very sad situation for these folks and the families. But remember when the cities, and I was going around the country during that time, and I was seeing the damage that was done. We didn't hear anything about arrests for those people, or so this has been kind of building for a while. And so it didn't just happen overnight, Mario. I mean, and we're going to play a video in just a moment here where many folks on the Democrat side of the aisle were inciting violence. We're literally saying President Trump should be shot. He should be punched in the face. And so if this would be on the other side, if this would have been the right, anybody on the right, they would have probably been in jail by now. They probably would have been raided by our government. I hate to say it, but it's true. So people are looking at this. They're saying there's a 2-tier justice system. It's not fair. It's not equal. And I think people that have historically voted Democrat for issues, I know folks that say, you know what, I'm more kind of libertarian. I don't really agree with all Republican policies, or, I'm fiscally Republican, but some of the policies I don't agree with. Obviously, that's not the position of a Christian, but I'm just saying folks that I know in the business world. But they're saying, you know what, though, this party has gone so off the rails. They're so radicalized that I have to disavow. I can't be a part of this anymore. And this has been the risk, Mario, because when a party gets radicalized, what happens is they disenfranchise their base. The Blue Dogs, you got the Liebermans, you got folks like Manchin. Those people are not even endorsing Kamala. If you think about it, I mean, I think Manchin just came out. He's not endorsing Kamala. That says a lot. And so the Kennedy Democrat is gone. Think about Elon Musk. These are all Democrats. Elon Musk, you got Trump was a Democrat, by the way. A lot of these folks that are now coming out, what's the woman that's the war veteran that used to be in Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard. You got, they're stumping for Trump. I mean, this is what you got. Kennedy that's come out and endorsed Trump.
Robert Kennedy Jr. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that's momentum. I mean, I'd much rather be endorsed by a Kennedy than Taylor Swift.
You know, when a person's argument becomes weak, their voice, they get louder and shrill. And I don't know that we ran the 30-second video. I don't know if we ran that one. So that's the one I want to show because we got a comment on that. So let's run that right now.
It's not too much to ask Kamala, say, are you for a Palestinian state if Hamas is going to run that state?
Okay.
Yes or no?
And let's say you don't like her answer. Are you going to vote for Donald Trump?
No, I'm not.
Kamala
I just said I'm not going to vote for her.
Harris is not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. We have two choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2016 for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy.
Now, I got to say two things. You get ready to go, Todd. You get ready to go. Number one is she's painting the 4 years that Trump was president as horrible years. Look at the damage he did. All right. I want to speak to that for a moment. And then the second thing that she said is, you know, we know what he's going to do. And you may not know some of her answers. Okay, this is why America's turning against her. I almost hate to say it because I don't want her campaign to hear this wisdom. You have insulted the American mind because you've said she does not need to have policy because she's going to stop Trump. She doesn't need to have substance because she's going to stop Trump. And are you going to vote for Trump? And if you don't know what she thinks about the economy or about taxes or about national security or immigration, if you don't know anything about what she's going to say, are you going to vote for Trump? And he said no, like a robot, a robotic answer. But that's what people are picking up on. That's what they're getting. This is totally nuts that you are asking me to suspend reason, suspend my intelligence, and vote for her, even though she is not telling us what she's actually going to do or what she actually believes. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, well, again, you know, anything but Trump is not going to work this time around. That's what they did with Joe Biden. It's not going to work. I don't think it worked last time. I think there was some shenanigans, but we won't get into that. But the bottom line is it's definitely not going to work right now because now we've seen where they want to take the country and folks have seen it and they don't like the policies. And she doesn't have any policies. There's not it's an anything but Trump again, but that's not going to work. We need policy. We need somebody who's an innovator. We need somebody who's a deal maker. That's, you know, Trump has the art of the deal. Let's go further though, Mario, because you got to get into the zeitgeist too. And that's what we're doing here tonight of the folks. And if you think about this, this is an era, of exposure. Look what's happening right now with Sean P. Diddy Combs. Look what's happening with Hollywood. Look what's happened with Weinstein, Epstein, the NXIVM scandal. I mean, you can go on and on down the line over the last few years. Folks are researching. They're listening to alternative news and alternative media. They're questioning. And Kamala Harris is part of the elites. She is somebody. I mean, look who she hangs around. Look who she's supported by. That group, it's like the Wizard of Oz. The curtain has been moved. You know, people are seeing behind the scenes now, and it doesn't work anymore. Okay, and so that's another major factor that people aren't factoring in here. And we've talked about a lot of factors tonight, but this whole elite culture, the curtain has been pulled away, and folks are seeing behind the scenes now. And they don't like what they see. And listen, there's a big club and you ain't part of it. And that's how the American people feel. And you nailed it, Mario. You said they're insulting our intelligence. Yeah. That is what they're doing. And the average folks are seeing this and they don't like what they're seeing.
And I really believe the hand of God is on it. But again, and I'm going to implore, you got to vote. You got to pray. We've got to speak up and realize that the prophetic core of God's people that live in America have an opportunity right now because the door is opened. And it's real clear politics. I looked at the articles that were in there. There were at least 5 or 6, and this is never the case, that are talking about her losing. They're saying it's Trump's campaign to win. It's his election to win. It's not hers to lose. It's his to win. Why is another article entitled, "Why is Kamala losing?" Another one saying, it's, explaining what's going on, the razor thin margins. And you got to understand, if there are in any way razor thin margins in the polls, in the battleground states, they always oversample Democrats. They always do that. So we know that the indicators are everywhere, but that's all they are now, is indicators. And it's time for the people of God to absolutely put the pedal to the metal, keep your foot on the gas, vote, and make sure you get everyone you can to vote, because this is a supernatural moment. But let's talk about the final video that we have to show, and then we're going to get into the firepower perspective. Before we introduce this video, I want to talk about the assassination attempts on Donald Trump. I think that the final straw was the media's reaction to a presidential candidate being shot at twice and blaming it on him. Now, that may have, I really believe the media. Don't you think the media thinks that's red meat for their base, to the point where they are socially disconnected for how they're coming across? When Lester Holt said, Trump was shot at, but he is still using the same rhetoric. Like, blame the victim in a way like that. And so many of them were saying it, and then denying that they're violent. So comment on that.
Yeah, well, it goes down to, have we lost our humanity? Have we lost our compassion, our empathy as a society? I mean, the fact that these people are so enraged and so unhinged that they don't even stop for a minute and just say, hey, you know what, this is wrong. And listen, we may not agree on policies, or, we may have a much different worldview, but we don't want to see anybody die. But that's not what's happening. It's actually the opposite. You have these folks coming out and encouraging this, and literally looking depressed and down that worse didn't happen. I mean, first of all, we averted what could have potentially been a civil war. Let's just be real. I mean, if any of those things would have been successful, we need to continue to pray. We need to continue to pray for the protection of President Trump, his family, and just pray God's favor over this nation, because there are still many wicked plans. And I believe they're being thwarted through the prayers of the saints. It's that's super important that we do not cease to pray and fast. And Mario, thank you for drilling that in throughout the whole broadcast tonight, because it's so important. But the reaction of the talking heads, especially on the left, MSNBC, CNN, these folks, I think it's a turnoff. They would have been better off to come out and say, you know what, let's stop for a minute here. And I think even Cuomo's brother, the governor's brother, even Chris Cuomo, I think he came out and said, this is wrong. I mean, there's been a few of them that have said it, but not a lot. There needed to be a much more. That should have been across the board, where we as Americans come together. Think about when Reagan, I just watched the Reagan movie, very good movie, by the way. And, when Reagan was shot, I remember them saying, and I was very young, but I remember them saying, we're all Republicans tonight, sir. It was a moment of unity where everybody rallied around, because they didn't want to see an American president killed and assassinated. And yet, in this time around, we're in such a polarized time. And I believe a lot of this is the rise in spirit of Antichrist and the demonic that we're seeing, where folks now have waxed cold, like the Bible said. And we're now seeing such a wickedness that folks literally are wishing the worst upon this man. And what that's doing is it's backfiring on him.
When I was in Berkeley, Todd, and then we're going to show this video. When I was in Berkeley for 10 years, one of the aspects of our ministry that was very unique was pulling young people out of cults. And there, at that time, there were over 1,000 cults in the United States, because cultic behavior through meditation and Eastern religion was flooding the United States. And some of these cults had so poisoned the minds of the young people that they needed to go through a deliverance that was very unique. I'm not talking about deprogramming, because
Right.
some of those tactics were just as bad as the cult itself. But these young people had that moment of revelation when God would save them and deliver them from the cult. And then all of a sudden, it was like all of the pieces would fall into place. And this panoramic deception was clear. They could see the connection from the beginning of the time that their mind began to be poisoned until the point of their deliverance. It was like this towering effect of all the house lights going up. America's going through that right now. They are now seeing the Russia hoax in light of what it should be. They are now seeing the conspiracy theories associated with January 6th. We are watching that the redacting, the revision, the leftist manipulation of history. We're watching it unfold. America's acting like devotees that were in a cult whose eyes are suddenly being opened. And they're realizing Trump is not that evil. And he's got a heart for America. Excuse me, I want to rephrase that. Trump is not the evil that they said he was. He loves America. And suddenly now this is happening. Now they can go back and see that in the heat of the moment, I believed and said things that are pretty despicable while I was in that cult. And now their behavior is properly and contextually repulsive. So let's run this video of Democrats talking about violence on Trump.
The House managers spoke about rhetoric, about a constant drumbeat of heated language. Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
Feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the
Well, this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Remember back when those things were funny? And how do they look now? And here's how you know this. Decent people watching right now, decent people that don't like Trump, that are Democrats, and maybe are planning to vote for Kamala. They look at that now, after there have been 2 attempts on his life and there's a knot in the gut. How could we have talked that way? How could a presumptive nominee for the presidency say, does any of us have to come out alive? And back then it was hilarious. And Ellen was laughing. She was laughing. We've been laughing at a lot of things in the last few years. But the laughter is turning to remorse. And I think the hand of God is on it. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, well, I'm just keep thinking about that Nancy Pelosi video where she's eating the ice cream. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of her, but I mean, the woman's slurring her words as she's speaking on there. Maxine Waters, I mean, what a motley crew on that group. And that woman that's out there who's, I don't know her name, but she's basically taunting the soldiers on the left. You know what's interesting, Mario? Most folks that are Second Amendment people, most ex-military, they're actually not on the left. So it's interesting how they talk boldly, but a lot of the folks on the left are not capable of even fighting. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just saying, that video is just unbelievable, because if any folks on the right, I can imagine Senator Hawley or Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones or anybody would have said the exact same things, literally the exact. I mean, imagine Trump's son saying that. There would have been feds at the door. I mean, they probably would be in jail. That's how two-tiered and biased this system is. And again, to your point, and how we've kind of been nailing this, down throughout the episode today, is the two-tiered system, the elites, all these things are a factor into what's playing out right now in America. And I think everybody is watching this play out. It's like a reality TV show. But, you got the guy who loves the country, who didn't even make a salary, who lost money. There's this graphic on social media, and it shows Obama, it shows the Bushes, it shows all these elite folks from the past. And then it shows Donald Trump. He's the only president in a long time that actually lost money. Look at the costs that he's paid with his businesses, with his family, with the persecution. Folks are watching all this, and they're looking at their personal life. They're looking at the American dream, which is fading away. They're looking at how the world is looking at us, how people like Putin and Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping are no respect. You got the BRICS rising, you got the dollar diminishing, you got the world on the brink of war. Everything is a factor. And so, to your point, Mario, and I think those folks that are writing the op-eds of the Real Clear Politics are right. This is Trump's now to win. I mean, he is ahead, but the suppression polls and the propaganda is trying to convince us and make us grow weary. And to look at it from the spiritual side, that's exactly what the enemy wants. That's why the Bible says, do not grow weary in doing good. That's why the Bible says the faithful, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. And as the saints of God pray, and as we press in, and as we don't listen to the lies and the propaganda and all this stuff that's being shoved down our throat, and we inquire of the Holy Spirit, and we pray and intercede for this nation on our knees with our family, the tide is beginning to turn. And Mario, you gave such an amazing word last week. It was a now word. It was from the Lord. But I believe the Lord also wants us to be encouraged and to keep pressing ahead. So the warning is true. It is real. It is there. That's what we're pushing through tonight here, is that, yes, America needs to repent. The warning was spot on last week. And I highly encourage you, if you didn't watch last week's Firepower, to go back and watch it, because it absolutely 100% bore witness in my spirit. We got so much feedback from many of you from the Army all around the country, from the Firepower Army, that said, listen, that was one of the most powerful broadcasts we've seen. It bears witness in our spirit. And so, but that's what's happening. That's why the Lord shared that with us, Mario, is so that we can pray, so that we can fast, so that we can intercede. And so that's what we're doing here today. And we're going to continue to do it. And we can't grow weary in doing good.
No, we cannot. You know what happened here? And I want to read a verse from the Bible that I've been reading a lot lately. In the New King James, this is several weeks ago, I quoted that verse on Firepower. And I told you that we needed to pray, because in the day of David, when his son conspired against him to take over the throne, was murdering so many people, forced David into the wilderness in total despair. It looked like the kingdom would be lost to his own son. And David had this prayer, because he found out that this man whose name is fun to pronounce, his counsel was the same as an oracle from God. That's what the Bible said. And when he turned and began to run and manipulate Absalom's military strategy, David's heart sank. And he prayed to God. He said, turn his counsel into foolishness. That's what I believe has happened. That's what I believe has happened. You know, we have a thing called the moral high ground. I don't know who came up with that, but the moral high ground. You see, what's happened is the left, the media. We're talking about the New York Times. We're talking about NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN. They've taken the moral high ground. They're saying, we are your conscience. We're telling you what's good for you. Well, the problem with the moral high ground is you better not have any immorality yourself. And that's what's happened. The nation is looking at them and saying, you're so completely imbalanced. You're so completely not objective. You're lying even when you don't need to lie. You're lying about stupid things. And now we know, and now we feel it. And I feel hope that the combination of the prayers of the saints and the alternative media, which is able to attack the legacy media with truth and not be canceled. I think it was a turning point when Zuckerberg felt the guilt. Hey, I was told to lie, and I admit it. And Facebook right now, somehow the algorithm has been less oppressive than it was before. I feel a similarity in YouTube. I still don't trust any one of them, but I know that we're at a key moment where the prayers, the speaking out, the effort, and now you're going to see the next thing. The evangelicals that have been seduced into this fear of quote unquote Christian nationalism, that feel that Trump shouldn't be anybody we have anything to do with, they're starting to feel it now. They're going to come alongside, and there comes a great victory. And I want to tell you, with a few minutes that I got left, I got to make an announcement. I am in a tremendous state of burden. We're going to do a crusade in California, folks, and we are going to see thousands of people get born again because of the misery over there.